Hello challenges, Dr. Naveen here. In this video, I'll talk about this important test called post-coital test. There are other names for these tests. One is Hooner's test, or also known as Sims test, or we also called as Sims-Hooner's test. So all these are synonyms for the post-coital test. The name itself signifies it is done after a coital act. So where do we do this? This is mainly to diagnose infertility. Okay, that is in the evaluation, to be more precise. While evaluating an infertile couple, the postcoital test helps in diagnosing very important factor, that is the cervical mucus. If there is any issue with the cervical mucus, that is mainly the immunological issue. That means the cervix might contain anti-sperm antibodies. In presence of this anti-sperm antibodies in the cervical mucus, for example, this is the ovum and this is the sperm which needs to enter into the ovum. If the cervical mucus contains anti-sperm antibodies in it, this sperm cannot penetrate the ovum due to the cervical mucosal factor. So this immunological factor, actually the issue with the cervical mucus, is diagnosed with the help of this test called postcoital test. What is the other name for this test? This is also known as Hooner's test, Sims test, or also known as Sim-Hooner's test. We'll discuss this test. Introduction is done. We'll discuss the principle behind this test. We'll discuss the procedure, and we'll also look into the interpretation of the results. So this interpretation of the results we'll do with the help of an MCQ for better understanding. Let's begin with the principle behind this postcoital test. As I already told you, if there is any anti-sperm antibodies in the cervical mucosa, the sperm cannot enter or penetrate the cervical mucosa and cannot fertilize the ovum, right? So this presents whenever the sperm comes in contact with anti-sperm antibodies present in the cervical mucosa, it loses its motility. That means the sperms become immotile. Or sometimes instead of normal movements, the movements of the sperm becomes either shaky or rotatory movements. So all these examinations, all these observations are made under a microscope. So we'll come back to the procedure, then you will understand principle even clearer. Okay, so we'll discuss the procedure first. So in this test, the postcoital test, this is usually done. First is the time period. When do we advise this postcoital test? It is very important at the time of ovulation in female. Okay, in the female partner at the time of ovulation or close to the ovulation, and advise couple to perform a coital act or intercourse close to the ovulation time, that too early hours of the morning. Okay, so early hours of the morning, this is where mating should occur. Okay, and after this, ask the female or only woman partner is enough to present to the clinic. Okay, within 2 hours of the intercourse, very important. So in a postcoital test, within how many hours the female partner should present to the clinic after the intercourse? That is within 2 hours. That's the reason the intercourse should happen in the early hours of the morning, so that by morning 9 a.m. the woman will be presenting to the clinic. So now what we'll be doing, the examiner will be aspirating the mucus. So there will be the aspiration of the mucus from the cervical canal. Okay, and it is spread onto a glass slide. So we'll be taking a glass slide, we'll be putting up the cervical mucus which is aspirated from the cervical canal. This is test. For any microscopic examination or glass slide test, we always look at the control also. So the control smear is also made as a control which is taken from the posterior fornix in the vagina, in the posterior fornix, where for example, if this is the cervical canal and this is the vaginal wall, okay, if this is anterior and posterior, after the intercourse the semen enters into the cervical mucus or cervical canal, the semen also is deposited in the posterior fornix. What is the difference now? In the control stage, in the posterior fornix, you will only see the sperms which are motile, okay, you won't be seeing any cervical mucus, so there is control, so we put it there. So after this we will be looking at the interpretation, but as I told you, normally you will see motile sperms, okay, normally you will see motile sperms, but if there is any anti-sperm antibodies, you might not be seeing any motile sperm, that is the sperms becomes immotile, or the same sperms in the presence of anti-sperm antibodies, instead of having normal movements, they will be showing this shaky or rotatory movements. See, both the things are indicative of an immunological defect. Okay, so this is the principle behind the postcoital test, and this is how the procedure is done. The final part of the discussion is the interpretation part. So as I told you, we'll be discussing this interpretation with the help of an MCQ. See, here the question is Sims-Huner test, which is showing non-motile sperms in the cervical smear, but motile sperms from the posterior fornix suggests. So there will be non-motility because of presence of anti-sperm antibodies. Okay, so this is because of immunological defect. This is one. So let's look at the interpretation in detail now. So how do we interpret? Let's see. First, in a normal patient, that means if there is no immunological defect in the cervix normally, and if the male is also normal, that is normal sperm count, you will see 10 to 50 motile sperms. Okay, 10 to 50 motile sperms for high power field. So you will be looking at a slide with normal motility of the sperms, and the count is also 10 to 50 per high power field. This is normal. It rules out any immunological defects. For example, if the motility is normal, okay, but count is abnormal. What happened in the first scenario? Motility is normal, and also the sperm count per high power field is also normal. So in case of abnormal count, that means less than 10 motile sperms for high power field. If this is the scenario, then you need to undertake proper semen analysis in males, because you might need to rule out oligospermia or azoospermia. Okay, this is for the fourth option, which is not here. Okay, so next thing, because here it's non-motile sperms, this option is out of the question. Next, let's look at the third scenario. Here sperms are immotile, but count is normal. That means we are looking at immunological defect. This table is very important. This is the fourth option. So let's look at the fourth scenario. Okay, here within the test sample, you're seeing lot of sperms in the control, okay, but in the test there's no sperms. That means I'm not talking about abnormal count, I'm talking about no sperms. So when there is no sperm, there is no point of motility, complete absence of sperms. That means the semen might not have deposited into the cervical canal. This happens in two conditions. One is uterine retroversion, and the second condition, as mentioned in the options here, is hypospadias Okay, hypospadias, because of the abnormal location of the urethral opening, the sperm might not get deposited into the cervical canal, and also any faulty coital practice. If it is faulty, you might not see. Okay, but here in the question this is not the case. So please, this flowchart is very important. Normal motility, normal count, it's normal. Immunological factor is ruled out. Normal motility but count is low, then you are looking at azoospermia. So you will be advising male partner for seminal analysis in this case. And next is immotile sperms but normal count. This means immunological factor, that is anti-sperm antibodies. And next is absence of the sperms. So if there's no sperm, there's no point of motility. This happens in case of uterine retroversion or retroverted uterus, hypospadias, and also faulty coital practice. So what is the answer here? Here it is immunological defect.